All right, this time next week, we're going to be sitting here predicting Iowa State, Kansas State in a Week 0 banger. Next week, it's game week. So we are rounding out the end of the off-season part of our calendar. So glad to have y'all here, man. Welcome into the Hard Count. It is Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. Last one on the face of the planet. Kind of got a little 2-for-1 special on today's show. Almost 2 segments of the show. The first part, we're hitting fall camp intel hard. We had scrimmages across the country. We had a bunch of teams going at it. Give you all the notes and intel there. Then on the second half of the show, go through our official preseason top 25. Now, we have been tinkering with this thing as early as this morning, so we've been making changes. Think we nailed it, though. Think we have the semi-perfect. No, I'll just say it. I think we have the perfect top 25 going into the college football season. Glad to have you here. If you're a sicko, welcome in. This place is college football, nothing but college football. We love it. We enjoy it. We celebrate it every single day. We are about to move into 3 shows a week, so make sure you're locked and loaded. Bring your hard hat, your lunch pail, your juice box, all that in a bag of chips. Let's start in Tallahassee, Florida. Now, Mike Norvell put up the wall and said, hey, thou shalt not pass. You're not coming in our place and watching practice for the most part. But we still got some intel from the good folks over there at War Chant. There's been a lot of really positive buzz, wait for it, around the offense. Okay, now I'm saying this with some bated breath, saying this just kind of tippy-toeing on the edge there of saying the offense could and maybe will be good. If you were a Florida State fan last year, 1, God bless you. 2, you were just, showing up every single Saturday, watching that offense take the field, score 2 touchdowns, call it a day. On average, sometimes it was less than that. I'd be very surprised if that was the same temperament this upcoming year. Tommy Castellanos now, they like what they're seeing from him. Now it's fall camp. We're trying to not jump too far into the propaganda pool, but again, it's fall camp, so in that same breath, you might as well jump into the propaganda pool because this is all you have to go on right now. Sounds like they've had some explosives. They've been hitting behind closed doors. Squirrel White had a couple of big shots over the top from Tommy C. It sounds like at one of their most recent scrimmages. They love what he brings to the table from an intangible perspective, and that was something we talked about a lot, especially when he sat down with Pete Nakos and pretty much said, Saban can't save you, I'm coming, Alabama. I tore up the ACC myself. Now, whether that was actually what happened or not really is what we're here to talk about. The point being the confidence, the swagger, the edge, all cliche things, but after you go 2-10 the year before, you better have some of that. You better have some extra juice at quarterback who's going to touch the football every single play. So I like that from him. I like what I'm hearing out of that. I also like the fact they're talking really positively about the way the running back room is starting to trend. Now, Gavin Sawchuk is a transfer from Oklahoma. They like the way that he's coming along. Dude has real deal speed. He can burn. I also like the young buck, Usman Chroma. He had a couple of big plays from the scrimmage. One they put out on the social media, had a little swing pass, cut back across field, just like doing stuff that you don't really see true freshmen doing, especially at this point in his career where he wasn't the guy that had a early enrollee tag on him. They like the way that's trending. Rodell Williams, also a guy they're excited about, clearly from what he was when he got there a year ago. Last year's kind of a wash, I think, for everybody on that football team, but I think they're still excited about what he's going to bring to the table. The bottom line here is good vibes, which is I think all you can ask for at this point on the offensive side. Deuce Robinson also, like what he is as a possession receiver. He's been a guy that's kind of pushed that room. The offensive line is a question mark a little bit, right? We're still trying to connect, still trying to gel. This most recent scrimmage they had was one of the first times they've had all of their potential starting 5 together on the field, or one of the first times. So you take that with a grain of salt. Here's my thing with the offense. I think in Gus Malzahn's perfect world, you don't need to have block-on-block destruction every single drive to get where you want to go and score points. Quite frankly, Tommy Castellanos, I think one of the big reasons you brought him here is understanding it's not going to be a perfect setup on the offensive line. You have the luxury of turning loose that Sam linebacker or that edge defender, that overhang player, and saying, you know what, instead of having to block you, we're just going to read you. Even if we don't have it perfect on a pass protection setup, Tommy Castellanos can shake and bake, play Jack Sparrow, Pirates of the Caribbean back there, and we can make something happen with him ad-libbing. So there's a lot there. The thing I want you to take away is Gus Malzahn and the confidence level that they have in him and the internal confidence is pretty high. All right, now defensively, I've been told there's a different swagger internally. Probably a different contrast from what the fan base perceives this defense to be and what they feel like they are inside that building in Tallahassee, which is probably how you'd want the divide to be right now. You wouldn't want the fan base to be super confident. And then you go talk to people in Tallahassee, and they're like, yeah, I don't know. Not feeling great about it. Terrence Knighton is a defensive on the defensive staff in Tallahassee, the D-line coach. Just his confidence, I think, is pretty infectious from what I've heard within that building and how that roster is seeing themselves. Darrell Jackson is the guy that this staff thinks could end up being a first-round pick in the NFL draft, a guy who transferred over from Miami 2 years ago, saw some time last year, had some good showings last year, but kind of got overshadowed by just the fiasco that last season was for Florida State. The feeling is, though, the staff and the way they communicate with this group of players, there is a much better buy-in level than what you had from the most recent staff in 2024, okay? What does that count for? We're going to see. But that's one of the crucial jumping-off points going into a season. If there's a disconnect between locker room and defensive staff, like we're not even – I mean, we can't even line up and speak the same language at that point in time. And also when things start going left, when you start losing to Memphis, like at that point in time, to not have that connection between those two parties is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. So that Alabama game is crucial for that same reason, not so much that you have to build rapport between staff and roster. That's obviously a part of any football team at this point in time. But I think that the big thing I'm looking at with Alabama, and this is going to sound like loser talk because it kind of is, and I'm not telling you should view it this way if you're a Florida State fan. You should have higher expectations than what I'm about to say. But you cannot afford for things to be ugly against Alabama week 1. Okay? Because if that happens, it just starts the mind game that you don't want to play, which is what? Well, last year we were 2-10. Well, why should we expect any different when we were this last year? Now we're going into another season and we just got our teeth kicked in by the Crimson Tide at home. Like, you don't want to start all that. One thing that I think is encouraging that I'm hearing based on the intel out of Tallahassee is there's so many new faces in that building, both on that staff and that locker room, which we've talked about. New OC, new DC, like darn near 50 new guys on this roster. There isn't really that carryover from what last year was to what this year is going to be. Because a lot of those guys that were there this year aren't there last year. You know, there's not that same cloud hanging over their head of, well, last year sucked. Like, a lot of those guys weren't there last year. So in that way, there's some good returns so far for Florida State. So got to start fast. That's absolutely crucial, but we will obviously keep our ear to the ground for all things Florida State here going forward as it pertains to fall camp, leading into that big one, week 1 in Tallahassee. Gosh, I can't wait. Okay, so Alabama's next up. I want to go to their intel as it pertains to what's going on in Tuscaloosa. They scrimmaged this past weekend as well. Quarterbacks getting the headlines, right? I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Now, On3's Pete Nakos reports Ty Simpson is going to be your starting quarterback in Tuscaloosa. One thing that I think is worth unpacking around Ty Simpson that I think gets swept under the rug a little bit in this discussion is how talented he truly is, because he doesn't start over Jalen Milroe, and much like you, I was like kind of scratching my head at that. That feels weird. If you're going to be a dude at Alabama, why can't you get the keys even like in, crunch time when Jalen Milroe was throwing a bunch of picks against Oklahoma? Like, it just, the whole thing kind of always felt weird. But Ty Simpson, still a dude who was a 5-star prospect out of high school. He stuck around at Bama, more power to him. But just because he didn't transfer out doesn't mean that he can't still play football at a high level. I'll say this. I think I can say this. I have on really good authority that there was another Power 4 school that was in the transfer portal quarterback market a couple of years ago that would have taken Ty Simpson. I feel like I'm not burning any bridges saying that. Bottom line, guy can play. They feel good about him. There was no interceptions from any of the 3 quarterbacks on this past scrimmage. One thing Kalen DeBoer said during his press conference, which I thought was eye-opening, outside of the no interceptions thing from these 3 guys, he talked about, hey, they made good decisions. We played with good confidence. We hit on our explosive opportunities, all those things which are, good things to hear out of your head coach, out of a scrimmage. But to have him saying those things about explosives, efficiency, being decisive, all that, and then the buzz to stay with Ty Simpson as being your starting quarterback, that's telling me about what Ty Simpson is doing behind closed doors. That tells me that he is doing all of those things Kalen DeBoer is speaking to and doing them at the highest level of this entire quarterback room right now. Now, Austin Mack hasn't had any, egregious scrimmages from what I understand, or had any egregious practices based on talking to people close to Tuscaloosa. There's just a lot of excitement around Keelan Russell. and what his natural raw ability is and how he's progressing so far since getting there in the spring. Someone I talked to said they believe Keelan Russell's going to win that backup job. There's going to be a temptation there with him just with how, again, just physically gifted the guy is, being one of the top quarterbacks out of this most recent cycle. Take of that as you will. The fact that's even a conversation, I think, speaks volumes to how much Keelan Russell has progressed to this point in Tuscaloosa since enrolling in the spring, because Austin Mack's a guy that's been around the block and been in this offense for a while. So it's not a thing that I think speaks of Austin Mack so much as it speaks to how quickly Keelan Russell is progressing. Now, that wide receiver room, you've heard me talk a lot about how good that top three is with Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Isaiah Horton transferring in from Miami. One thing that's starting to, I think, show itself more and more throughout this fall camp, y'all, they're real deal deep. Person I talked to said they think they could be like potentially 8 deep at receiver. Latzir Brooks, a guy who's wearing number 17 at Alabama right now. You don't get 17 at Alabama after Jalen Waddle had it, or ask for 17 after Jalen Waddle had it, and not be a dude. So Latzir Brooks sounds like he's going to have a role depending on how much he can work with on his plate. Cole Adams, a guy that you know if you're an Alabama fan, but a guy that's progressed and had a good fall camp so far. So the fact they have so many guys they can work with in that receiver room that they can actually play, to me, I'm just thinking about who's calling the offense in Ryan Grubb, and what I know about him and his offenses. If you got a lot of mouths to feed and you trust a lot of those guys to go ball, you can get kind of creative. You can be aggressive because you're not worried about burning out in terms of guys that are available to play for you any given Saturday. No pun intended to the SEC Netflix doc. I just think about that Washington team that was coached by Grubb and DeBoer, and it was Grubb's offense, and how many just names you had to deal with every single Saturday. It was Jalen Polk. It was Rome Odunze. It was Jalen McMillan. It was West over the tight end. So I'm not saying that you're going to have any of these guys be those guys, but just to have that same conversation and that same level of, we got to worry about 4, 5, 6 dudes any given weekend, I think that's pretty ideal based on where Alabama is and based on who they have calling the shots here in Ryan Grubb. Now, Jam Miller had a really good scrimmage, it sounds like. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer said at the press conference he had his best scrimmage of the running backs, one of his best scrimmages, I think, since getting to Alabama with Kalen DeBoer. That was a big part of Washington, too, during that national title season where they played Michigan for the whole deal and fell short. I was a team that still had a running back that I believe went for over 1,000 yards, transferring over from Mississippi State. That was an offensive line that if they didn't win the Joe Moore Award, they were in the finalist category. I think they actually won it that year. Bottom line, they're still going to want to run the football. To hear good things about Jay Miller right now is encouraging, that you can actually run Kalen DeBoer's offense. So that's some more good intel. On the defensive side, one thing that just keeps getting talked about is the depth up front for Alabama. This is what's made Alabama Bama in the past, right? Like, this is the position group you would want to be talked about during fall camp in a positive manner. Tim Keenan, he's a dog. LT Overton, he's a dog. But it's the guys behind them, like the second unit all the way to, I guess, the third unit. Like, to have real deal depth for Alabama, that's what made those Saban teams such just pains to deal with when you got into the month of November and into the playoff. Because they still can match up with you up front with their big human beings, push you around, and dictate the tempo of the game when everyone's a little bit sore, everyone's a little bit dinged up. We've all played 12-plus games. To still have depth at that level, that's going to be what defines Bama's ceiling, I think, in 2025, in addition to what they have at quarterback. The culture is one thing we got to talk about here. It's getting probably over-talked about at this point with Kalen DeBoer in year 2. But the person that I talked to highlighted the reality that there's no longer this like Nick Saban hangover, if you will, for this roster. And this isn't saying that what you had a year ago was a bad culture. That's not what I'm saying. But the guys that were a part of this roster a year ago, I keep saying this, they were committed to playing for Alabama. This group now is committed to playing for Kalen DeBoer. I mean, how many times are you afforded the opportunity to leave a school now in modern college football? Just the freshmen alone. You commit, then you got to stick with that commitment and sign. Then you got to go and forego that December portal if you early enroll. Then you got to forego the spring. Like, that's 4 times right there. You got to commit to Alabama, and that's not even counting the guys that are on the roster right now. So the bottom line here is, or the guys that were already in the roster before talking to these freshmen. The bottom line here is, yeah, it's a different culture. Yeah, it's a different feel. But whatever it is, it's solidified. Like, I don't care if it's a less Terminator approach. Like, I know the Nick Saban era was very much like, we're not playing music and we're just going to be machine-like, and that's all well and good. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Kalen DeBoer, based on his track record, clearly has mastered whatever the other ways are. And I think that's going to be something you see pay dividends here for Alabama here in 2025. So that's the intel so far out of Tuscaloosa. Let's go to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, my LSU Tigers. Those of y'all that have watched the show, you know they are my national title pick. So I'm going to do my very best, stay objective here, non-biased when it comes to breaking down the intel out of what's happening on the Ponderosa. Garrett Nussmeier gave all of us a bit of a heart attack this past week when you start scrolling the Twitter feed and you say, oh my gosh, did Nuss hurt his knee? I've seen reports that Nuss has got an injury, had to be helped off the field. I was told that was not the case. He walked off under his own power. Brian Kelly, from a strictly precautionary point of view, just said, you know what, Nuss, how about you sit out? You're our starting quarterback. Threw for over 4,000 yards last year. We're not worried about you when it comes to playing games this fall. Since that happened, media got to watch them scrimmage a little bit. Now, Garrett Nussmeier, I hate to say this, did not look 100%. Based on the folks that I talked to that were at that scrimmage, wore a knee sleeve during that scrimmage. Here's my thing. I'm not super concerned about this yet because this is a one-off and clearly something happened to where he sat out the rest of a practice, or at least Brian Kelly thought that was a good idea. Unless this persists, I'm not going to be worried about it. So in a one-off setting, okay, you wore a knee sleeve, not a knee brace, a knee sleeve. So we'll let that one ride. But Garrett Nussmeier, he's okay. He's practicing. Doesn't look 100%, but it's fall camp. I don't think anyone's 100% right now to begin with. Now, the defense is what I want to really focus on right now. They have more playable depth than they've had since Brian Kelly got there. Notice what I said, playable depth. You can have depth that you can't actually depend on. Like we're all, in the world of college football from a roster level, you have guys on your 3-deep. How many of those guys on the 3-deep do you actually trust? How many of those guys on the 3-deep are you actually asking to go play on a Saturday afternoon when you get into conference play in the SEC? The way that it was described to me is Blake Baker truly now has his guys on the defensive side of LSU. And I think that's really important to note because a year ago, you brought in Blake Baker and the defense was improved from what it was the season before with Matt House, but it wasn't up to LSU standards. You go to the portal. You do some work. Go get some pieces on the front seven. Go get some pieces in the secondary. I've been told this defense is legitimately playing at a different temperature, a different speed, playing fast. That front seven, with what they have on the edge, with Pyburn and Patrick Payton from Florida State, Bernard Gooden they got via the portal from USF, they've got some real disruptors on that defensive line that they think is going to match the standard of what LSU football expects to be. I've been told they're 4 deep at the D-tackle position. Remember a couple of years ago, we're talking about, we're not paying for players, what Brian Kelly said. I said more power to you, but they have since then paid for some players, some pretty good players, and that front seven should look very, very different. Harold Perkins, deep breath. Just roll with me now for a second. He looks good. Not just looks good, he looks more well-rounded, looks more comfortable out there. You know he can rush the passer. That's not the question. Anyone with a set of eyeballs that understands how football works knows that Harold Perkins off the edge is a freaking problem. What I've been told is he's playing the run game with more confidence. He's playing with more of a willingness, it sounds like, to go and fit in the run game. He's also looking pretty good in coverage. Sounds like him and Bauer Sharp, the transfer tight end from Oklahoma, had some good battles in the one-on-one. Like to hear that. Mansour Delane is a transfer DB from Virginia Tech. Sounds like he's kind of a Swiss Army knife pickup for them. Again, just another piece you can use in the back end. When you have a Swiss Army knife anywhere on your defense, what that says to me is it allows you to free up other guys to do more of what they're better at. Like a Swiss Army knife means you can do a lot of things. So Mansour Delane can do a lot of things, allows other guys to specialize. One guy that I think they're going to count on to specialize is 5-star corner DJ Pickett. Now, DJ Pickett, if you are over on the Bengal Tiger, the On3 LSU site, you know Shea Dixon, best in the business covering LSU, has been pounding the drum. Hey, listen, this dude's trending to start game 1 against Clemson. I know he's a true freshman. I know he's pretty skinny. He's going to start game 1 against Clemson. Now, DJ Pickett, shout out to you. It sounds like you've bulked up a bit since getting to LSU. He's listed at 6'5", 195. There was a point, though, during, I believe it was either the last practice or somewhere earlier on in fall camp, where DJ Pickett, if you were wondering about his physical readiness to play in college football, he has a rep in one-on-one against Nick Anderson, transfer wide receiver from Oklahoma, 6'4", 208 pounds. There's a jump ball in the end zone, and DJ Pickett's lined up one-on-one against Nick Anderson, and DJ Pickett wins that rep. Okay, now I mentioned Nick Anderson at that measurable I just gave you, the most physically imposing receiver on LSU's roster. So for DJ Pickett to win a rep like that, it's just one rep. But I would say, to me, that's like okay, he can do it. Now, can you do it consistently? Can you do it with the brightest of lights on, with Herbie and Fowler on the call when you go to Clemson and play against Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore? Like, we'll see. But to see your freshman bulk up and do things like that and to kind of check that box from an optics perspective, I think that's a good sign. I think that's a very good sign. So I'm talking a lot about the defense here because I think it's probably the thing that makes you the most nervous if you had to pick a side of the ball if you're an LSU fan. They might just be pretty good. Like, I'm not saying they're going to lead America in terms of takeaways per game and sacks and all that, but they might be pretty good, and pretty good for LSU this year with what they have on offense could make them the national champions, as someone may have on this show picked them to be. The wide receiver room is loaded. Chris Hilton, you're just, fingers crossed, hoping, praying every single night for that guy that he stays healthy, because when he's healthy, he's a dog. Barry and Brown transferring in from Kentucky, they've said he looked real good. Really excited about him. The tight end room is, in a word, stacked. I mentioned Bauer Sharp. He's one of those guys you keep seeing on the LSU socials for doing just like freakish stuff in the weight room and having a great summer in the offseason program. Excited about that. Also, Trey Green. He's like 6'12" or something. Dude's monstrous. They're going to use him in the red zone in a pretty unique way. Like, they're going to move him around a lot. It's going to be a lot of different personnel groupings with this tight end room because of how much flexibility they have. Music to my ears, I'm an LSU fan. Big time advantage for Joe Sloan. And when you got a guy pulling the trigger that is Garrett Nussmeier, should be a lot of points. Now, the question you have, if you're an LSU fan, is, okay, well, what are we up front? Because JD, I think they got like 4 guys right now in an NFL camp that played last year on the offensive line. They're figuring it out, which is fall camp. So I'm going to try and kind of speak unassertively here about the LSU offensive line. Going to see what they are. It's inconsistent at times. It's still a work in progress. I think for LSU, though, what I was told is they just have to be serviceable with that group. Not dominant, not best in America, not best in the SEC, serviceable. Because they're so strong at every other position group on the offense, especially at quarterback, that you shouldn't have to block for 3 Mississippis to have success on offense. Because Garrett Nussmeier is playing a step ahead now at a mental level to where that ball is out quick in a perfect world. Now, the big question is, can you run block? Can you run block for Caden Durham? Can you run block for Harlan Berry, the high-tier freshman that you got that's already enrolled from the spring and now having a good fall camp, it sounds like? If you can do that, okay, now we're, I don't want to say 2019 territory, but I think that's what the firepower is for this unit. And that's a ridiculous comparison to make, but just stick with me. That's the vibe I get when you talk to people close to LSU on the offensive side of the football. So if you can run block now, you give Nussmeier some more windows downfield, you're more multidimensional as an offense in terms of game you can win. We'll see. Now, last thing, I'm always curious to talk to people about the vibe, the people that are actually on the grass at a practice at any given school. The vibe right now at LSU is, for better or for worse, the focus is 110% on Clemson. Okay, now we talked to Brian Kelly, or we heard from Brian Kelly at Media Days, talked to Nussmeier at Media Days. They have the paw print on the bags they're hitting at practice, whatever. Like, it's all well and good. But it's been like doubled and tripled down on from people you talk to close to LSU. Like, no, it is about Clemson at a different level. And that comes from this feeling internally of, well, we cannot afford to start from behind again. Can't do it. Because with that schedule, you're going to know probably like early October where you stand in that college football playoff race. Like, you play LSU, play Florida pretty early on as well. You're going to have a pretty good gauge as to where you stand in regards to what your task is. Okay, we got to be perfect in the month of November to find our way in the playoff. That's asking a lot of any college football team, but especially if you drop that first one. So a lot of focus on Clemson. If you get that win over Clemson week 1, though, the feeling is anybody who was potentially not bought in internally, But if you were maybe just going to be put out by a loss to Clemson and maybe start playing that mind game internally, if you beat Clemson, that might be the switch that flips it of like, no, actually, we are that team. We are good enough to go in at all. Let's go get it done. So a lot of good stuff out of LSU. A lot of good stuff over on the Bengal Tiger if you want to stay tapped into all things LSU throughout fall camp and the rest of the college football season. Bryce Kuhn, Shea Dixon, Matthew Bruni doing a tremendous job over there, so get locked in. Texas, they had their scrimmage this past weekend. Try and go quick here. I'm going to get to Arch in a second. I'm going to get to him, so just sit tight. Defense won the day. Now, you're a Texas fan, you're like, JD, I want to hear about 16 throwing darts. I want to hear about Ryan Wingo going for 300 yards. I hear you. I'm not saying you're wrong, but this was also the same story that you had in 2021 out of that first scrimmage. Hey, defense looks awesome. Defense won the day. And then in 2021, what happened? The offense ended up being the group that led the charge for you. The defensive line is nasty. Colin Simmons had multiple, I put sacks in air quotes for those of y'all that are listening on podcasts because obviously you're not sacking the quarterback. Play has been a whistle dead. Lance Jackson, 5-star edge for you, getting first-team reps. Like the bottom line here is water is wet. Texas is going to be ridiculous up front yet again. Want to circle back on Colin Simmons really quick. Really great freshman year. I don't think anybody's questioning what he's going to be. He has a jersey number change to number 1 from number 11. You don't give dudes number 1 if they are not, especially as a true sophomore, if they're not about to wreak havoc. So food for thought there. Colin Simmons is going to be a dude. Defensive line is going to be sick. Trey Moore, Sam linebacker, doing some good things for them as well. The defense is going to be awesome. Defensive line was a big reason why they were so dominant on this past scrimmage. Now, Arch Manning, unofficially, the numbers that I got was 12 for 16 on the day, so not terrible. No interceptions, which I think is huge. We'll circle back to in a second. A couple of deep passes to Parker Livingstone, who I think is someone you are going to be more familiar with on a national level here in 2025. You already know of Ryan Wingo. He had a good day, caught a touchdown from Arch in the red zone. If Arch can just, especially early on, keep away from that turnover bug and just progress and play within this offense, Texas is going to be real good because that defense is good enough to hold it down for you for, the better part of the regular season. Now, you got to bring it against Ohio State, obviously, but no interceptions out of the first scrimmage was the most encouraging thing I could have heard when it comes to how Arch played in that first true 11 on 11. CJ Baxter practiced with a knee brace, but good to hear he's back out there. Said he looked like he was the most noticeable of the running backs, it sounds like at least. Now he's a guy that when he was healthy, he was a dog for you, a guy you were really excited about this time last year, potentially being a guy for you here in 2024. Good return so far out of this scrimmage from 2025 campaign early for CJ Baxter. One thing I want to note on him, a lot of stretch plays from Texas in this scrimmage, a lot of wide zone plays. The reason why that's important as it pertains to CJ Baxter, he's a guy coming off a knee injury. You're having to plant off that knee pretty definitively any direction you go when you run the wide zone because you're seeing it all develop and then you see a crease, bam, you got to hit it and go. To hear that out of CJ Baxter and to hear that he looked good doing that, that to me is, again, we're taking a little from a lot here, but that's a lot from a little here, but that's really exciting for me, hearing about him getting back healthy. I mentioned Ryan Wingo. He looked awesome and he had a touchdown. If you're freaking out about the offense, I want to circle back and just say, do not do that. It's the first scrimmage. The first scrimmage is a lot of times you're trying to just create competitive situations and you see how your guys respond, trying to see how your depth guys respond. The big thing with the offense in 2025 that is different than the scrimmage is you're not going to have Steve Sarkisian scripting up how your first scrimmage is going to go. When you roll out there against Ohio State, there will be a script to go off of. There will be a certain scheme and plan of attack to go off of. That wasn't this. So don't panic. The offense didn't kill it on that day. They had a good day, but the defense won the day, and I think that's right in line with what we know about Texas at this point in time. Last group of intel here before we jump into our top 25. Ohio State. What's going on in the quarterback battle out there? We'll unpack it right now, but first things first, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, nothing but college football year-round. If you're an Ohio State fan, whenever they announce starting quarterback for you, we will have a take for you. We'll have a reaction for you. Want y'all a part of this, make sure you are subscribed. I believe Ryan Day at his press conference yesterday compared this quarterback battle to Joe Burrow and Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback battle he was a part of. Pretty good company between Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz being compared to that battle. Julian Sayin has looked the best over the last week, is what I've been told. Julian's saying it is expected will end up winning this job. Now, with that being said, this battle is in no way, shape, or form over. Lincoln Kienholz is making a case. Lincoln Kienholz, I've told you, I think deserves a role regardless if he wins the job or not. But just want to pound the table here. It is not over. It is not over. Lincoln Kienholz is making this a battle. This is going to continue to run its course. Outside of the quarterback battle, though, on the offensive side, you don't really ask about the receivers when you talk to people close to Ohio State because that would just be a waste of time and everyone's energy. I was encouraged by what I heard around the run game pieces. Like the offensive line, person I talked to said they, quote, love this offensive line, which is interesting because it's kind of an inverse of what you were dealing with mid-year last year. Kind of musical chairs based on injuries and guys having to play out of position and you're trying to piece it together on the offensive side. They think they're in a real good spot this upcoming season. What that says to me is you just can ask less of your starting quarterback. The Texas game is one thing, but outside of the Texas game, like we just need you to be ready to roll by November 1 when we play Penn State. Like the running back room, I've been told they now feel good about. There was cautious optimism in the spring. They actually feel real good about them now. C.J. Donaldson was a guy that impressed me during that spring game, the transfer from West Virginia. James Peoples, a guy that's been there, Ohio State fans are excited about. Bo Jackson, young buck that's been flashing so far during fall camp, had a good spring as well. Again, just be the training wheels for us after the Texas game. Just be the support system for the offense because Julian's saying, I think it's going to be real good. I think he's going to be the starter and be real good for you. But like if he has a first-year starter kind of day to be able to turn around and hand it to any one of those three I just mentioned and lean on the offensive line, I mean, it is I think, non-negotiable now in college football when it comes to winning at the highest level, which Ohio State expects to do. A couple more notes here. The tight end room, just a lot of names like Jelani Thurman you're excited about. Guy who's been there for a little bit, super talented, big body, good athlete. Max Clare, one of the best tight ends last year in the Big Ten, transferring in from Purdue. You saw him flash in the spring game. I'm curious to see how creative Brian Hartline chooses to get in personnel groupings because you have to think if you're taking a receiver off the field by going 12 personnel, I don't know how often I really want to do that from Ohio State, but if you can do that because you feel so good about your tight end room, more power to you. And at that point, I mean, you're scoring a lot of points anyway. Defensively, they think the edges are going to be just dogs for them, like Larry Johnson, one of the best D-line coaches in the country. No surprise there. Bo Atkinson transferring in from North Carolina, kind of a more low-key addition by Ohio State, I think, via the portal. They think he's going to be a dude now. All right, they feel real good about him and what he brings to the table. And then C.J. Hicks also moving to edge defender full-time in this defense. They think they're in a really good spot there. One more name to keep track of, Riley Pettijohn is a true freshman linebacker that got there in the spring. He's going to have a role. He was a top 2 linebacker in his cycle. He lost his black stripe already, which if you know anything about that, that means you are ready to go, do some damage at Ohio State. Whenever you get that black stripe removed, kind of a rite of passage. They're excited about him, whether it's on special teams, whether it's in a depth, role. He will have a role in 2025. Biggest takeaway here that I got, outside of the quarterback battle stuff, outside of everything I just mentioned, there is no complacency right now when you talk to people that are around the team in Columbus. Reason being, what we've said ad nauseum on this show, a lot of new people that haven't really done anything at Ohio State just yet, and the roles they're going to be, they're not worried about fighting complacency here in 2025, which I think if you're an Ohio State fan, that is music to the ears. Brian Hartline trying to prove himself as a play caller, I'm sure. Julian Sain, Lincoln Kienholz, whoever wins that job, trying to earn their keep as a starting quarterback. New starters on defense, like Matt Patricia, trying to earn what he is as a defensive coordinator back again at the college level. So there's a lot there. All good stuff, though, so far out of fall camp for Ohio State, and fully expect them once again to be one of the top teams in the country based on that intel and based on what we know about Ohio State and how they're putting this whole thing together. Okay, we're close to college football season when we get the preseason polls starting to drop. I said this on a previous show. I could kind of take or leave Halloween personally. I appreciate it, but I kind of take or leave it. I get excited about Halloween because I'm like, oh, Thanksgiving and Christmas are about to be here. Could kind of take or leave preseason polls, but when I see preseason polls, I'm like, oh, we're actually about to start playing college football. So with that being said, I'm going to give you my preseason top 25 for the 2025 season. Here's my criteria on this. This is not a projection. This is strictly in a vacuum, all right? So you'll notice now, if you've seen our 12-team college football playoff predictions, it's not going to mirror what I think our top 25 teams are in the country right now. This is a what are you right now conversation. Not grading you against your schedule, not grading you on what I think you're going to accomplish. This is what are you right now. So I kind of split this top 25 into different groups, if you will. Like 25 through 19 for me is just quite frankly teams that I like the trend of, teams I feel good about. At 25, I like Georgia Tech a lot. I do, and I know they won 7 games last year, but they are number 26 in returning production. Brent run the ball key. I think he is going to see a jump even in what they were last year to this year. I love their backfield. Haynes King, if he's healthy, one of the most efficient quarterbacks in college football, and what he does on the ground for you. Jamal Haynes is essentially a 1,000-yard back for you at Georgia Tech. I love Georgia Tech this year. I love the internal stuff. I love the intangibles. To me, they're number 25. Now, another team I like at 24. I got USC. And I don't know how many preseason polls are going to have USC in there, but if you're actually watching the games themselves, you're putting USC in your top 25. The reason being, USC fans, hang on. We're going to say this stat one more time. All their losses tied or leading in the fourth quarter except for one, which was Notre Dame. Notre Dame played for a national championship. They were driving to tie the game against Notre Dame in the fourth quarter. With that out of the way, what does it tell you about USC? Talented. More importantly, they're close. They're close. They're right there. I don't think they're going to take a step back this year. I think they'll be a pop team this year. Say what you want about USC, about Lincoln Riley and defense and this and that. I think he's got his quarterback this year. A more Lincoln Riley brand quarterback this year, I should say. I think the defense will be on par, potentially better than last year. I like USC. Got him at 24. At number 23, I got SMU. This is kind of a Rhett Lashley hat tip, if you will. I think it'd be irresponsible to not rank SMU after they made the college football playoff last year. Now, a lot of close games, sure. It didn't always look the most dominant out of the Stang a season ago. But here's the thing. Rhett Lashley, since getting to SMU, it's up and to the right. They win the American Athletic their last year in it. They play for the ACC their first year in it. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, but I'm trusting Rhett Lashley's got a top 25 squad right now in Dallas. Number 22, another team that I like / just kind of trust the trend of, Texas Tech. Like they could be like Thanos in the Big 12. Like we're all talking about Utah bouncing back in Kansas State and Iowa State and all that, and it's all well and good, but like if Texas Tech hit on this transfer portal haul the way that I think they believe they hit on this transfer portal haul, they could be the most talented team in the Big 12 that we maybe aren't the most familiar with, and they could run roughshod over that conference. Now, it's a big if, but for me, I'd feel irresponsible after what they were a year ago and what they bring back and who their head coach is and their portal haul. Top 25 team to me. Got Texas Tech at number 22 in our preseason top 25. Now, staying in the Big 12, call me a homer if you want. I got Baylor at number 21. Number 11 in returning production. Man, Baylor's quarterback, Sawyer Robertson, one of the best quarterbacks that I think is not being talked about right now. Two, he wasn't even your starter this time a year ago. It was DeQuan Finn, who's now at Miami of Ohio. So giving him a full offseason, a full spring as being your starting quarterback truly, with all the pieces back around him, with an offense that was dynamic a year ago, a running back that was a 1,000-yard back as a freshman, like they got a lot of pieces there in Waco. I'm trusting Dave Aranda on the defensive side to get it right. I think Baylor, as of right now, is a top 25 team. I got them at number 21. Now, similar to what we said about SMU, there's kind of a benefit of the doubt that I think you have to give to Ole Miss because they're like in the hundreds in returning production. I got them at number 20 on our our top 25 right now ahead of the college football season. Lane Kiffin, just every single year, man, just goes to the portal, gets what he needs to get, and you can essentially bake on their portal class being effective enough to have Ole Miss be one of the better teams in the SEC. Now, I pair that with what I saw from Austin Simmons, and those of y'all that watch this show, you've heard me wax poetic about that Mona Lisa drive from Austin Simmons against Georgia. Goes out there. It's a gross game. It's like soggy at this point in time. A little bit of rain, a little bit of precipitation. Jackson Dart goes out of the game. You're down 7-0. Lane Kiffin says, Austin, sling that thing. Like 4 or 5 passes, downfield passes, mind you. That, to me, in small sample size, smallest sample size you can have, I trust Austin Simmons. I trust Lane Kiffin to get that roster right. I think Ole Miss, don't know how it looks exactly, but I think they're a top 25 team ahead of next season. Number 19, this is one that I just truly don't know what to do with. This is one that Kate and I actually had a good conversation before the show about. I had Indiana everywhere from unranked to number 25 exactly. I'm gonna finish this discussion with Indiana at number 19 as it pertains to the Hoosiers. I still don't totally know what to do with them, but they bring back a lot on the offensive line. They bring back one of the best receivers in the Big Ten in Surratt, Fernando Mendoza. The NFL people like him, so I'm going to go ahead and trust that. The schedule is more difficult, but I'm not ranking them off the schedule. I'm ranking them off of what they are right now. So I would feel a little bit foolish to not put a Kurt Cignetti football team in the top 25. 19 feels like a fair spot for them right now. So based on what they are internally, based on that roster, I have Indiana at 19 ahead of the college football season. So those are all teams that I would put in like the I like category, I like the way they're trending category, just kind of a vibes thing. Now, 18 through 10 on our top 25 are all teams that I could see being in the college football playoff. Now, I don't have all these teams predicted to make the college football playoff, but it wouldn't shock me if any one of these teams found their way into that top 12 at the end of the season. At number 18, I got Tennessee. How much do you really need from whoever plays quarterback for you? Because talking to folks in Knoxville, they're like, defense is going to be good again. Top 5, we'll see. But they think they're like 12 to 14 deep on the D-line. They feel good about that linebacker group. Like they trust the defense. If Josh Heupel can do what Josh Heupel has done since getting to Tennessee, which is call a offense that caters to his personnel and allows them to win football games, Tennessee's going to be a problem yet again. So I like Tennessee. I like the way they're built. If Joey Aguilar, who I think is going to start for you, ends up like grasping that system and making that his offense, and Tennessee has some receivers that can separate, Tennessee is going to be knocking on the door of the college football playoff. But again, not projecting it right now. Right now, I'm going to say Tennessee is number 18 in America. At number 17, I got Michigan. The roster math here is just pretty simple to see. I mean, I hate to just keep rehashing the same talking points for Michigan, but it just feels like you have to do this. Last year, you beat Ohio State, and you beat Alabama. Ohio State won the national championship. Alabama was on the front doorstep of the college football playoff, got turned away at the last second. You beat both those teams with, me playing quarterback for you. No knock on Davis Warren or Alex Orge or anybody out there, but like that's the reality. You did not have anything substantial at quarterback to work with. Now you have the number one player in America set to start for you, I believe, week 1 as a true freshman, and Bryce Underwood. Defense, yeah, you lose some draft picks, still going to be real good. Running back room, different than what it's been in the past, still going to be real good. Offensive line, we'll see exactly what they look like. But again, going back to this whole point, if you were what you were a year ago with no quarterback play, essentially, what are you with the most talented high school player in all of America set to start for you at quarterback in 2025? You'd have to think pretty good. So Michigan is number 17 to me. Number 16, man, I could see Oklahoma party crashing. I really could. I just love the questions we're asking about them. Like, nobody's asking any really major questions around the defense. Yeah, you wonder what the secondary is a little bit. Sure, you wonder, what Brent Venables is going to do with the side of that football, or that side of the football now truly being his to call. They feel good about the defense. So the question becomes, what's the offense? How far can they take you? Now, if you've watched this show, I am as pro John Mateer as it gets. I think he's going to have a ridiculous year. I think him and Ben Arbuckle being together going over to Oklahoma does not get talked about nearly enough. I think the weapons are really good. Oklahoma, I don't know if they're going to be a college football playoff team. I would not want to play them in the month of November. I love how they're built. I'll leave it at that. I didn't even mention Jaden Knox. I love how they're built. At number 15, I got Illinois. Top 3 returning production with your quarterback, Luke Altmaier, from a team that won 10 games a year ago with that bowl win. The Brett Bielema identity is going to be there. They're going to be tough. They're going to be physical. They're going to be all those things. How do you handle the new spotlight you have if you're Illinois is my question? Because, again, I'm not projecting, in this segment when it comes to what Illinois is going to be as a top 15 team. Right now, they're a top 15 team. They're a college football playoff team, though. If they can handle that spotlight and deal with other teams now circling them when they look at their schedule during the preseason. Like Illinois, you probably, in previous years counted as a tough game. Maybe in some years counted them as a potential win. Illinois is getting everyone's attention now in 2025. How do you handle that uncharted territory for you if you're the Illini? We'll see. Number 14, I got Miami. This is the best roster Martin Cristobal has had since getting to Coral Gables. You're saying, JD, there's no Cam Ward. 100% true. But Carson Beck is there. Carson Beck, some people believe, is going to be a first-round pick next year. This time a year ago, he was projected to be the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, and what happened at Georgia. The big excitement with Miami, though, outside of Carson Beck, is like the middle of the roster is just better depth, better direction on defense with that new staff coming over and some portal pieces. If Miami can have a professional approach to every single game, they will find their way into the college football playoff. It's pretty fair to say they're going to be the second most talented team in the ACC just from the jump. To me, they're a top 15 team ahead of this upcoming season. Now, Florida is at number 13. Take the schedule out of it, because we always grade Florida against their schedule, and they got this many teams to play, and they play this many teams in the month of October. Like, I hear all that. Just take that out of it. If you just look at Florida from a pure roster perspective, there's not a lot to not like. Now, the DJ Lagway thing is a part of why I have them at 13 and not higher, quite honestly. But like the roster itself, it's a top 15 roster. Line of scrimmage, both sides, awesome. Receiver room, feel great about. Dallas Wilson, you hope can get back healthy sooner rather than later, but you feel good about what you have over there. Running back room, feel great there. Depth in that front seven at the linebacker spot. Secondary, like you go down the line here. There's not a lot of question marks from a roster level with Florida. Now you got to go do it, and maybe you're getting the benefit of the doubt because of how you finished last year, whether that's right or wrong. Take the schedule out of it. Florida's a top 15 team in college football. Now, I think the best roster in college football, as it pertains to the Big 12, is Arizona State. Top 2 returning production. Sam Leavitt's back, the best quarterback in the Big 12 for my money. You lose Cam Scadaboo, which there's no way to, undersell that, but you went to Army, of all places, and got Kanye Udo to transfer in and be your running back. 1,000-yard rusher a year ago at Army, double-digit touchdowns. I don't know that he's Cam Scadaboo, but I don't think you'll have this massive drop-off in production with what that run game is. So can there be a college football playoff team again in 2025? Wouldn't it shock me? Wouldn't it shock me in the slightest? At number 11, I got South Carolina. Dude, if South Carolina makes the playoff and I didn't pick them to make the playoff, I'll be so sad. My heart wants South Carolina a lot higher, just to be fully transparent with you right now. Lenoris Sellers could carry this team to the playoff. He's that special. I think he'll be a Heisman finalist. The defense, I think, will be good, but how good relative to what they were last year? Now, some of this is just Shane Beamer's going to find a way to make it work. If that's how you feel about South Carolina, more power to you. I'm curious to see what does it look like for Dylan Stewart not having Kennard on the other side. If he just wrecking shop again, then maybe South Carolina is a playoff team. But still waiting to see what they are here in 2025 from a matchup perspective on every down, but I love the pieces. I love Shane Beamer. South Carolina to me at number 11. Now, number 10, Texas A&M. Can you give me a definitive reason about this year's team why they shouldn't be ranked where I have them ranked? I saw some people had them in the teens, some people had them in the 20s, and that's fine. Is there a reason, though, not dating back to the Jimbo Fisher era or the Kevin Sumlin era as to why you wouldn't be in on A&M in 2025? Because for me, I see a quarterback that's got a lot of juice, gives them a real identity on offense. I see a receiver room that's trending up. I see a defensive side of the ball where I just trust Mike Elko. I see a culture that's taking the right steps for the first time in what feels like forever in College Station. I love A&M. I love the returning production. And to me, they're a top 10 team in college football right now. I feel great saying that. Now, this tier, 9 through 1, are teams we've talked a lot about on the show already, so we'll kind of go through them quickly. But these are all teams that I think could win a national championship. This is the national title tier, if you will. All these teams, I have my college football playoff. All these teams, I think, are a tweak here, a tweak there from winning the whole thing in 2025. Now, at number 9, I got Alabama. The tweak for them is, do you have a true plus at quarterback? Because we gave you the fall camp intel segment earlier on in this full show. Any question based on talent for Alabama outside of quarterback? Even at quarterback, you're talking about a potential 5-star guy for you starting in Ty Simpson, right? How much do you progress in doing things Kalen DeBoer's way? If Ty Simpson is a dude, plays like a 5-star, and you take those steps culturally and are more consistent, Alabama is going to be a pain, and they could win a national championship. At number 8, I got Georgia. Feels very weird having Georgia at 8. Just kind of how I see things right now. You have questions around Georgia, which are fair, but at the same time, you're sort of answering that question for yourself in the back of your mind. You have to ask this question in Georgia, but you're not 110% sure it's all the way a valid question as it pertains to what they're going to be in 2025. How consistent is the defense is my question. It's Kirby Smart. It's Glenn Schumann. How good's the offense? Like, yeah, we'll see with Gunnar Stockton, but like they went out and got a bunch of pieces on the perimeter. You'd like to think the offensive line's not going to stay what it was last year. You think there'll be kind of a sense of urgency there. So you don't really question the talent with Georgia. 8, again, it just feels wrong, but it's where I have them right now. And I'll be surprised if Georgia doesn't finish higher than that here in 25, just to be honest with y'all. At number 7, this is my national title pick in LSU. So, again, not a prediction is this top 25. This is purely how I see these teams right now. My thing with LSU as to why I have them at 7 and why I don't have them at number 1 when I picked them to the national championship, this is an ingredients thing for me. Okay? Like, you kind of go to a restaurant and you see what's in a certain sandwich. I went to Little Hats in Franklin, Tennessee. Shout out Little Hats. They do a great job. I'm looking at the ingredients. I don't know what that sandwich is actually going to taste like. I'm going off the menu here, brother. Now, the menu tells me top 2 portal class, returning quarterback that threw 4,000 yards last year. Tells me they got great pieces on defense in year 2 under Blake Baker. I like the ingredients, but until I see it, until I get that sandwich in my hands, I can't do anything for you as it pertains to putting them higher in the rankings. So LSU at 7, again, my national title pick. I hope I haven't been unclear there. At number 6, I got Notre Dame. I think it is going back to what we said about Alabama, kind of a quarterback discussion for them, right? Is it C.J. Carr? Is it Kenny Minchie? And if it's either one of those guys, how much of an answer do you have at quarterback? Because the longer this thing goes, I think if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're hoping a little bit that you have what you need at quarterback. Outside of that, it's a national title caliber roster. Like Jeremiah Love's the best back in college football. Defense is loaded. Offensive line is loaded. There's not a lot of questions around Notre Dame outside of that. Oregon, kind of a similar thought process with them. The difference is you know who their quarterback's going to be in Dante Moore, also a 5-star guy in his own right. Less proven, not less talented. It's the Dayland culture. It's the fact that you have 2 top 10, top 5 portal classes on this roster paired with 3 top 10 recruiting classes. Less names you know, more names you're going to get to know, and Oregon, I have them in a top 5 tier right now ahead of this college football season. At number 4, I got Penn State. Very much this is the year feel to them, doesn't it? Right? Like Drew Aller's back, backfield's back, a lot of pieces on defense back. Go get Jim Knowles, who is arguably the best defensive coordinator in college football. Was the fix those portal receivers? If it was, then, I mean, we're going to have confetti falling here in the studio because our producer, Caden Smith, picked him to win the whole thing, and he'd be right. So if that happens, I mean, it's going to be a very, very good vibe, both here and in Happy Valley. Number 3, I got Clemson. To me, they're the most sure thing in college football. I just think we know the most about them. Number 1 returning production, year 3 starting quarterback in Cade Klubnik in the same system. The receivers are now where we've begged them to be at if you're a Clemson fan. Just like not a whole lot of notes around Clemson. It's just like, can they actually go translate from that talent level over to the field and go win those big games? Not in the month of November or December. Like, can you go win those big games in January? Because that was what those old Clemson teams had. Talent, yes, check that box for this Clemson team. Do you have the winning traits to go get it done? No real way to know at this point in time, but for me, Clemson at number 3 feels like a fair spot to put them ahead of 2025, who won the ACC a year ago and bring just about everybody back. Number 2, the defending national champions. They're not defending anything in Ryan Day's mind. They are in go-get-it mode. Ohio State at number 2. It'd be dumb to question them just purely based on talent. We'll see who the quarterback is, but like you got the 2 best players in college football. Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs. New pieces at the coordinator spot, sure. But honestly, that part of it makes me like them more because there's still that hunger there. So Ohio State at 2, no real questions there, Your Honor. At number 1, right now, the Texas Longhorns have the best combo of what I value the most. Continuity on the staff, roster talent, line of scrimmage, proven commodities across the board on the defensive side that you get excited about, from Colin Simmons to Anthony Hill. Like, I think we trust the quarterback in Arch Manning. I trust what he's going to be more in the month of November than September. But right now, still the raw ingredients of a 5-star quarterback in Arch Manning for Texas, paired with what they've been and what they've built that program to be over the course of the last several years since Sark's been there. Texas, for me, is the number 1 team in college football ahead of the 2025 season. So again, not a projection, not a prediction, but just how we see these teams right now in the landscape of the 2025 season. All right. Again, next time we're on the mic here on a Tuesday, it's going to be a Prediction Tuesday. And it's going to be a lot of fun, man. College football is back in a big way. Fall camp is back. Make sure you're subscribed right here so you don't miss any of the intel we have coming for you on this show, The Hard Count. But for Caden Smith, the ones and twos, for myself, JD PicKell, we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We will keep this party rolling. We will see y'all.